Yep.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and start us so that we can move forward. I want to provide some information for you and then have some dialogue at the end about kind of where we think we're going at this stage in the game, recognizing everything is constantly shifting around. I'm going to talk about what I think some of the big barriers are that we're facing right now, and some of them are just philosophical or challenges we're going to face as we try to relaunch worship. And I want us as a community to kind of be aware and hold those. Then we're going to talk about what the next steps are going to be, where we think we're going, and then finally some feedback from you, opportunity for some dialogue and conversation. The 5 barriers I want to name, I think we're going to face as a community. The first one is there's going to be this pull from us just to go back to normal, right? Just to go back to February of 2020 and pretend that this last however long hasn't happened. And the challenge of that for our lives is we actually can't go back to that point. We have to move forward out of where we are, not out of where we have been. And we have to move forward where God is calling us to be. One of the ways I think about this is we are creatures of habit, right? And our habits have been utterly destroyed in how we do things. And so we have to really give ourselves the benefit of shifting to engage people who we haven't been able to engage before. This technology has allowed us to grow in ways that we would have gotten to eventually, but COVID just really sped up our technological advancement. And so we can't lose that. We have to hang on to that. That means we have to rethink kind of how we do a couple of things. So the first barrier is just this pull, this desire just to go back to normal. We have to resist that as a community together. The second barrier I want to talk about is there really is no magic solution for what we do. There is making the best decisions using the best practices we know for worship and for engagement moving forward. I want to be really clear, whatever decision we make as a community about how we relaunch this community is going to have lots of feelings. There's going to be a myriad of opinions. There's going to be disagreement, and there's going to be people who are going to point out a lot of negatives that will happen for us. I think we have to learn how to shift and adapt, and we've done that for the last year. We know how to do that, but I think this is going to be a real moment for us to compromise together with our aim centered on how do we continue to reach people we haven't been able to reach before. Which brings me to our third barrier, which is we constantly have this pull tension of pews, people in the pews, over the purpose God has given us for the world. We know that the focus of Christianity for the last 50 years has been primarily on worship. And this is a great opportunity for us to shift out of that and make sure our focus on our purpose is what God is calling us to do, which is to provide hope and love for those who are in the bottom of the valley while celebrating with those who are on the peak of the mountain, that life is successful and there are great things happening. We're called to stand with people at both of those. And this is where I talk about that concept of this is our evangelistic moment where we can continue to do this online engagement that we have seen people join our church community through, while also holding those in-person worship that is critical for our community. The fourth barrier we're going to face is building use. So for the last year, the preschool, which has 50 plus kids in it, has pretty much kind of had run of the building. We haven't been here as a community, and they've kind of had the run of everything. And I will tell you, the last year, it has been a vibrant, full building every day of the week, which is amazing. We've provided a safe place for children to be. They have a home here. They know what it means to come here. We also have probably the most sanitized place outside of the hospital that I have been in the community. So we buy sanitizer by the gallons constantly. So this is a vibrant, safe, sanitized place. But the tension is going to be, we're going to have to actually learn all over again how to share the building. We're going to have to learn how to share the kitchen. We're going to have to learn how to share the friendship room. We're going to have to learn how to share the parking lot. Oh, wait, what parking? We're going to have to learn again how to do all this. So that's going to be a barrier we're going to have to figure out together. And the last barrier I want to name is whatever plan we move forward with, we have to look at how do we reach all generations that are out there. Our plan cannot favor one generation over another. We've got to make sure we're encompassing all the generations in the world. Generation Z, which are students who are born after 1998, are starting to enter the workplace. Not go to high school, not go to college. They're graduating and entering the workplace. And they think about the world and the church very differently than other generations. So how does our plan encompass those Generation Zs? It encompasses our children. How does it encompass the millennials and Generation X and our baby boomers and our silent generation? How does everybody have a place in the plan we provide to move forward? So I just want to give you some context of what I think is happening in Christendom, because I think those barriers are really significant for us as we move forward. Any questions or comment about those kind of 5 barriers before we move on to next steps? Ways you see that reflecting, ways you're like, yeah, that really resonates with me, ways that you're like, I don't know, I disagree with that. Any comments, reflections on those 5 barriers?
Well, so I'm just looking at who's listening to this conversation, and it's all maybe silent generation and whatever's right below us. So
Yep.
How do we reach the rest of those folks?
Well, I think some of those folks are here. You've got some Gen Xers, you've got a millennial on this call, right? We also have conversations with them. So what we're talking about here is a conversation that's been ongoing. I've had conversations with our leadership team, which involves all generations. I've had conversations with our staff, which involves all generations. Yes, it does involve all generations. We've had conversations with our COVID response team, right? Conversations with other groups in the community. So I think it's a great point, Jennifer. This is one more conversation about that. So, yep, yeah. Other questions, comments about barriers? How many want to just go back to normal? Please, can we just, right? Yeah. How many, do we recognize that that's not possible though, right? That makes sense why we can't do that? Yeah. How many understand the problems we're going to face around our building use? Yeah, those are going to be really interesting problems for us to unfollow or to learn again. Yeah, love it. Okay, any other barrier questions or comments? And then I'm going to move forward to give you the next steps. Yeah, Carl.
I don't know if this relates, but I've been thinking of Zoom technology and how it's worked to kind of bring some of us together.
Sure.
One of the things I noticed about it is we can bring in people from other states.
Yep.
When we go back to normal,
Yep.
I've been pondering this. Now, if this technology makes that possible, could we continue to use it in such a way that we can do that? For example, the men's group I'm a part of in the morning uses Zoom now, and we have one of our men is down in Arizona, and he's there every day, and he just loves being in our group. So that's. And what the quandary is the people in the men's group love being physically together. I think we've all agreed that is the preferable arrangement.
Sure.
But yet, bring in people from other states. So,
right.
To me, that's kind of quandary.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I think our plan on church is we have a plan that when we relaunch, and you start having Sunday school classes again in the building, every Sunday school class will have a room that will have a TV, just like what you're seeing me on, that you can have Zoom capability for your Sunday school classes. That is one of the shifts we have to make. That's that hybridity model where we have to do both and from now on. So absolutely. How does that relate to the men's group? That's a really interesting question.
I think
and the men.
I'll take that. I think that the small groups will be both and in the same way. And I think that that points to a culture shift that we are seeing, in that I personally don't think it will be weird for people to be sitting at IHOP and have a laptop at the table, and that's a part of what's going on. I don't think that it will be weird. It might be a laptop or on someone's phone, or I just think that that will be a part of what we're doing. And the many of the committee meetings will always have the option, you know, we might have the meeting at the church, but if you are out in Manhattan and it doesn't work for you to drive in, or you're somebody who says I can't participate in that because I can't drive at night, well, lucky for you, we will always have the option to Zoom into everything that we're doing. I think it will be something that will always be an option for almost everything.
There you go. Is that helpful, Carl? Great.
I think Jenny.
Jenny.
Yeah, Jenny.
I was just going to add, I mean, I love the idea of both and, but I think to Jennifer's point, and just to offer to this group, I know I've offered it to Eric and Amy before, another side of it. I think part of why we don't have necessarily a mix of some of the generations on meetings like this and things is because right now the computer and Zoom engagements is pretty much all we're doing. So like my kids like don't want to go to Sunday school because they have to do it for school all the time. So I think some of that is trying to balance some of that for all the generations, and some jobs you are still primarily Zoom, some are mixed, some are totally back in the workplace. So I think as we move forward, it's important to keep those people engaged that can only engage via Zoom, but there's also, I think we're missing people who just can't do one more Zoom.
Sure, and I think long term, and I'll roll this out in a minute, I think we're gonna have a both and, where you'll have in person, we'll have then a digital capability. The tension for us, I think, is gonna be that as we transition, certain groups are gonna want this sooner, then certain groups are gonna want this sooner, then certain groups are gonna want this sooner. And what we have to figure out and be gracious with one another is how do we have a compromise in that, right? I mean, we go back to, there's gonna be lots of feelings and opinions. There's no magic solution to this. We have to all have a give and take as part of this moving forward. So let me go ahead and dive in. Oh, yeah, Rilla.
Being one of the gray-haired people here, I also hope we will keep in mind while we've got some older folks like Reed and Elaine and Dick and Lily, that there are people in their age group that aren't tech savvy, and maybe they will be able to return to in-person worship sooner than some younger people if they've been vaccinated. And, you know, we've got to watch all these things on the house side. And I know Dr. Flaherty's helping guide this with all of us. But having a sensitivity to the fact that a lot of older people have a real hard time with technology. People my generation do pretty well with it, but people older may get lost as you transition unless you find ways to help support them to stay on, because they're the people who can't drive sometimes to a worship service, but still could be connected through Zoom and other things. And also, as a person who, unfortunately, I'm terribly allergic to one of the ingredients in the vaccines that are available right now. So I'm sitting at the back of the line on a chair waiting for a vaccine to be approved that perhaps I can take. And there may be other people in our congregation that way also. So I know I'm going to be one of those who need Zoom to connect with groups far longer than maybe a lot of you folks will. And I do appreciate we have this technology. So I'm grateful to hear that we're going to figure out ways to do that, because like our adult discussion group matters a lot to me, and I still want to be a part of that.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's where, I think you really raised it really well about how we will have a both and approach, right? There's going to be an in-person, there's going to be digital engagement, but we also have to, again, everyone has to make the decision that's right for themselves. and also have to be a little flexible as we adjust. It's not it's like turning the Titanic, right? I cannot just snap my fingers tomorrow and turn this where we need it to go. So it's about, you know, the time frame to make sure we're doing this in a way that is professional and also is done right. We don't want to have to go back and pick up some of the technology pieces. All right, I see a hand.
It's Carolyn Simser,
Okay.
but you'll need to unmute yourself, Carolyn.
Great.
I'm not, oh, yep, there you go, you got it. Nope. Carolyn, we still can't hear you. You're just really quiet. I can hear you now, but just super, super quiet.
So Carolyn, can you type it into the chat box? Can you type your question in there? Let's use that feature. Perfect. All right. Well, Carolyn is typing in there. I'm going to kind of move forward and talk about kind of how we think this both and thing is going to work. So we will have an in-person worship, right? There's going to be an in-person worship that will happen in the near future. We have kind of a timeline for that, but again, everything is dependent on a lot of factors. That near future in-person worship service will happen at 9:30. We're not going to have a 10:30 and an 8:30 anymore. We know we can't go back to normal, and we know we need to have critical mass of people in the room. Socially distanced, of course, still masked. You'll still be masked when you come to church, but we want to create an engagement that is in what we have, similar to what we kind of been doing online. Alongside that, the and option is we'll provide an online engagement. You'll still go to Facebook or YouTube or whatever. You can go to the church website. However you log in online, it will still happen. It'll still operate the same way. There'll be somebody there who will ask you to check in, who will comment with you, who will engage in the comments for those who engage in the chat box. But what's a little different is how you're going to experience that. Now, we want to hold this tension of having a wide lens where you just see the whole of everything that's happening doesn't really engage, because we've done a great job of getting people right up in front of you, right? You see people. If you walked into the sanctuary today, though, it literally looks like a television studio. I mean, we've got big box cameras. We've got big box lights everywhere. We've got cords running all over the place. Well, that is the most distractive way for if you're in person to witness worship, right? You don't want to be looking around a giant light box to be able to see. And if we don't figure out how to light it better, I'm going to be totally in the dark and you're watching online and won't be able to see anything. So we know that our we know that our online engagement is going to require some personnel and some equipment investment. We've already identified that and are already starting that conversation about how we improve what we have so that we can have both a professional product, but also have one where it's close up, where you're engaged with that person, but not distracted to the people that are like actually here watching, like Lynn, right? Because if it's like this, that doesn't work for anybody, right? So that's what we have. That's the tension. The third avenue that I really want to highlight is we recognize there's a group of people within our community and outside of our community that are not going to want to engage with the community as it is. Part of that both and of in-person and online is that you're a part of the community. You want to see the sanctuary. You want to see what's happening when people are baptized. We want you to watch that if you can't be here. Today's a great example of why we'll continue to offer the online. How many would not drive to church today, right? If it was this snowy, right? Exactly. But you'd watch it online and could engage in what we're doing. So this third option is going to recognize there's a whole group of people who are Generation Z, who are younger, who are not going to engage in that kind of community. What they're looking for is the content, mostly the sermons of what we're providing, the mental health moments, the ways to improve their lives in their own struggles. And so this third vein over here is going to be, the sermons will be pre-recorded, not in person and online, but for this third group, we'll have pre-recorded sermons. Living Waters fits into this third group. They're going to continue to have recorded sermons. We're going to do an experiment this December. We already have identified a family that lives in Gallatin Gateway who is going to help us begin to start a micro house church, right? A group of parents that they don't want to come to church on Sunday morning. They have no desire to do that, but they want to get together. They want some spiritual nourishment for their lives. They want to have something to feed their souls. So we're going to give them something, and I don't know, they'll go run or bike or do something healthy together, right? Whatever it is. That's what they're looking for on a Saturday morning, right? We can give that to them because we have this third technology vein that's already up and running and that we're doing. So those are kind of the three avenues that we're thinking about as we offer a hybrid engagement with our community, primarily around worship, in person, the online digital engagement, and then this kind of microsite video community.
Pastor Eric, I just, as people are kind of thinking about questions or comments that they might have, I wanted to add that I think another thing that's really beautiful about the sort of third way of being together is that those folks, I think, might potentially be really interested in participating in our mission projects that we have. So we will be a place for them to plug in that way. And so, and then to think about that there will be times where we'll be able, hold on, buddy, when we'll be able to all be together and you know, it'll be like an all site, you know, kind of everybody actually together. And so, yes, they're sort of doing their own thing, but I think that they'll look forward to being with us in ways too. So there we go.
Yeah, I think that will be on us as the staff to kind of figure out how do we all get, what are the moments when everybody comes together, right? That's 9 months down the road, but yes, that'll be a part of what we hope to accomplish. So you've heard the presentation, you've heard some of what I think our challenges and barriers are going to be. You've heard what we think our next best steps are going to be. We want to hear some feedback from you. And there is people from our COVID response team on this. There's people from church council on this. Our staff is listening into this. And we want to hear from you kind of your responses to this. But let me give a caveat before you share. I'm not looking for feedback about how you have or have not enjoyed worship over the last year. That's not helpful. That's not actually little I can do about that. Here's the feedback we're looking for. Moving forward, as we continue to reach people we have not been able to reach before, moving forward, as you go out into the community this week and in the coming weeks, and you tell people in our community, here's what our church is thinking about doing. We want to hear what you think about the plan moving forward. We want to hear from others too. So make sure you offer an invitation for people to reach out and ask about this information. This is being recorded. It'll be available tomorrow on the Monday call or Monday email so that people can also participate in hearing what we're going to offer. For those of you who are watching this postscript, please share with us your feedback. We want to hear what you think about the plan for moving forward. So,
okay, I just have one more thing. I'm so sorry. I think it's also important to remember that just as we, you know, if you think about like last Holy Week, we were making plans for Palm Sunday. And by the time Palm Sunday came, everything was totally different. And so we pivoted and we adjusted, and the word nimble drives me crazy, but it is what we were doing. And I think that we will continue to be that way. You know, if we get to a point where we say we're going to have this 9:30 service, and then we get to a place where there's like literally too many people or something, you know, like we don't know. And so we always know that we don't know what we don't know, and that this is what we're thinking now. And we know that we might have to pivot and do different things based upon what actually ends up happening. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
okay, thoughts, feedback. You have to unmute yourself. So raise your hand and unmute yourself, and then we'd love to hear. Linda Lombardo.
Hi, everyone. I'm just kind of wondering, I know that one of the things I do here is that people miss actually singing and singing together, and people feel kind of funny singing over Zoom. I know singing is an extreme risk with COVID. And maybe this is something we need to have as far as restarting choir back at a different time and stuff. But I know that people are really missing the singing, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to get back to that.
That's a great, great question, Linda. I would say a couple things. I would say about music, our worship services moving forward are going to continue to be this hybrid model. We figured out we can do that together, right? We can have the band do stuff. We can have the organ do stuff. Like that hybrid of music styles is also going to continue. We will, when we relaunch, you will have the invitation to sing. You will not have the invitation to wear a mask. Like, you will be required to wear a mask. I want to be very clear about this, but we will invite, if you so choose, to sing. We are a singing community. We need to get back together and sing. That's really important for people. So we will be singing when we relaunch. That's a component of this. Now, again, as Amy said, could there be some data that comes out that makes us go, I don't know. We're really, really trying to get to the point where we relaunch when we can sing and be community together. So hope that answers that.
Yeah. And Linda, I would also say, I know that the people who sing in the choir are looking forward to being able to be together again too. You guys are, very much a small group that meets together. So that will be a joy for sure.
Reed.
There must be good fitting masks that would work with a person with a beard and still one could sing.
Yeah.
Safely.
Yes.
Let's, as a church, find out what's a safe thing to do.
So
and get some masks that work.
Yep, that's a great comment, Reed. So there's a lady in Belgrade. Her name is Marty Veldkamp. She goes to Living Waters, and she makes masks specifically for people with beards. So it is out there. You just need to, if you reach out to Allison, she can put you in contact with Marty, and Marty will get you a special mask made for your beard, especially long beards. Great, Reed. I love it. Other feedback, thoughts, questions, challenges you see, hopes? Okay, let's do a little poll. How many have been vaccinated, if you're willing to share?
And Lily has been vaccinated.
About a third of you. Okay.
Now, are you talking about having the first shot, or are you talking about having both?
However you want to answer, Gloria.
Okay. We've had the first one, so I don't know if we're vaccinated or not. We're kind of in between.
On the way. You're on the way.
We're on the way.
There you go. Jan, you're muted. I know you're saying something there.
Eric, if you'll make me the host, I might be able to help unmute people.
Amy, you're our techie person. We appreciate you.
I appreciate that you appreciate me. I never thought that would be a word associated with me, but all right, Dan.
Anybody that knows anything are techie.
Right.
Dan, you're unmuted. Did you have a thought?
Well, just that our United Methodist women are chomping at the bit to get together.
Sure. Yep. I hear it.
I just sent you a letter. You should get it Monday that I sent out to our ladies.
Great. Other thoughts?
I was just going to say, Lisa's works at Christus. She said, that building's pretty underutilized. If people need a large space to get together, you should.
Yeah.
Wesley Hall is often available.
Yep.
So
if
you have a small group of people that wants to spread out, that's a place that they could use.
It's a great reminder. The Wesley Center at Christus Collegium by campus is a great open space to be able to use. I know the Stephen Ministry group had their training this last summer on the lawn there at Christus Collegium. So we just need to remember that certainly is a space available to us. But the other space I would just mention that we kind of don't think about is the sanctuary is available too, right? It's not like the kids are in the sanctuary. They're not. It's an empty, unused space. So how can we every week also think about how we can use that space for, because it has all the technology you need. Everything is already built in there. So something good to think about. Lots of spaces available for us to spread out once we're all ready to come back. And that's your choice. You have to make that choice about when you are ready to come back, whether you're vaccinated or not, how comfortable you feel with approaching people in crowds.
Could I say something about the vaccinations?
Yeah, Martha, go.
Just how it relates to being able to feel comfortable about coming back into the church. So I consider myself I'm sort of like in the donut hole group. I'm under 70. So actually, when I called, it could be this summer before I'm vaccinated. Right. Even though I'm close to 70. So it staggers, probably the re-entry of people into the church. And many that you would think would probably be able to come back sooner will not be if a vaccination is their criteria for coming back. And the ideas about continuing to use Facebook and Zoom help with that transition.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point. We don't know when people are going to come back. Some of you who are vaccinated may be like, yeah, I'm ready next week. Let's go, and you may be ready, but I want you to know that your church staff may not be ready for you yet. We may not be ready equipment wise. We may not be ready personnel wise, and we may not be ready. All of us are going to be one of the last people to get the vaccine. So I think that's important to recognize that you also have a church staff that is towing this line for yourselves and also for our own selves in the midst of this. So to that end, our timeline, our initial timeline that we're thinking about, again, everything is nimble. Nothing is written in the stones like the 10 Commandments. So hold it gingerly. But we're pondering a first Sunday in May relaunch. It would allow that older generation that has been more secluded and isolated to get their vaccine, possibly be able to come back. It also allows, hopefully, more vaccine to make its way into our world. That's what we're thinking right now. A lot of that depends on equipment, work we need to do in the sanctuary, etc. So I saw Vicky and I saw somebody else, Patricia. So Vicky.
Okay, I just wanted to say that as we're thinking about how we're going to start up again and meeting together, that missions is still going to be doing things that for those that don't feel comfortable meeting together and for those that do as we start. Like some people feel perfectly comfortable right now coming in and making lunches for the warming center, and we take every precaution for that. Spraying everything down, staying distance, we wear gloves, we wear masks, all of that. But then there are other things that are very no contact, like leaving bars of soap in the garden box out front or whatever. And as we're moving forward, that is all going to be taken into consideration also. So missions will still be working sort of hybrid also.
Yeah.
And I love that donut hole reference, Martha. I'm there with you, and now I can start using it. I'm in the donut hole.
I think one thing Vicki said that everybody needs to hear, if you are in a small group and you plan to use the church for something, one of the new normals that we're going to have is you will be responsible for spraying your room down. It's a very easy process. We will train you in it. Don't worry about that. Many of our staff use it. It's very easy to use.
It's super fun, actually. It's like a little squirter. It's super fun.
It's not, it's the electrostatic sprayer, right?
It's a sub
He's gonna get show and tell. He's gonna go get it.
Uh-huh.
It's like being in Star Wars.
Star Wars toy, right?
I mean,
Like,
isn't that so cool?
and it's got a little light that comes out.
Don't squirt yourself.
All right.
An important debate with the band Elevate. Is that an actual laser, the light, or is that just a light?
It is a laser.
Okay, yeah.
Patricia, did you have something? No, okay. There was somebody that was going to talk right when Martha started. No.
Gloria.
I wanted to find out if you'll entertain a question that is a little bit off topic of the focus of this meeting. Question from the Zimmer household is, how did we end up the year financially?
That is a very good.
That's a great question. I will tell you, we ended the year around no deficit. And I don't want to give you a number yet because we're calculating that this week. But based on what we've received so far, it looks like we're going to have no deficit with a swing of up to 10,000 either way. We're waiting on, there's a lot of reimbursements from the federal government for the childcare that just take time to get in, and those came in this week. And so I know we'll have that actual number next week, but it looks really good. You all were some of the most faithful people. Thank you so much for your generosity as we continue to do ministry. I know so many churches that struggled to make it this year, and it's not that we didn't struggle, but we did what we needed to do, and your faithfulness is noted. So thank you for that.
Which includes payment of apportionments at 13.
We're paid at 100%.
Oh, nice.
Great. Yeah, we'll follow it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. It's a great question.
Yeah,
I'm happy to answer other questions that are off topic too. Patricia.
You mentioned earlier that you need to update or change technology within the sanctuary and maybe some more personnel. Can you address the personnel issue?
Yeah. The personnel issue comes in that what the personnel team is doing, I'll just talk about it from that perspective, is Allie Zaneri-Hale has exited her position here at BUMC, and we've really identified that, you know, the phone doesn't ring all that much. We don't really need someone to answer the phone. You can call and it will prompt you to get where you need to go. And if we're in our offices, you can get us, right? That's pretty easy to do. And so what we want to focus on is instead of, we want to focus on spending our money wisely. And one of the ways we see that is we need a person to help with digital content creation. It can't be something Jana does because Jana's overseeing the pushing of the information, right? Like that's her job, is to communicate that information. But we actually need a person who can film it, edit it, and have it ready to go. And then on Sunday, that person helps, which we already have a small little group of high school students that are helping and college students that are helping create Sunday morning. But we need somebody that's, again, not Jana, because Jana's going to be managing the Facebook conversation and engagement. We need somebody who can go, we're going to this camera, we're going to this camera. All right, we need to make sure we're over here at this camera. Whatever is happening in the worship, that moves smoothly and flawlessly. And so we are looking for a personnel person. If you know anybody who is interested and does video content, we're hiring a video person. We're also hiring somebody to do some administrative work, but we've reduced the hours of that job to add this digital content person. So again, if you know anybody who wants a part-time work, we've got 2 positions we're hiring for. So we would love to have you pass that along. I hope that helps the personnel conversation, Patricia.
Thank you.
Yep. From an equipment standpoint, it's about cameras, lights, as unobstructive as possible is what we're going for. So.
Does anybody have any questions about the upcoming Lent programs that we have? I'm sure that, oh yeah, Carrie?
I have a question. So I signed up for the kids box. Do I need to sign up for like another separate box for me?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be like the whole, like the grown-up one, and then the kid pack will go with it. Yeah, good question.
Other questions? They can be related to our relaunch. They can be unrelated to our relaunch. Questions you want to know about, except the second coming. That was already addressed in church today. So
Let me just add real quick, Carrie, that you'll be able to pick those up on February the 17th from 11 until 1, or also 4 until 6. And we're hoping that the families will be able to come in the 4 to 6 time so that their kiddos can come with them, and we'll do the imposition of ashes at that same time. And sometimes the Ash Wednesday service is one that families wouldn't have necessarily attended together. And so I think that it will be a meaningful, anytime there's a ritual that you can participate in, I think having children be a part of that is a good thing. And so we're hoping that 4 to 6 time might work for families to come in together and pick up their boxes and have their imposition of ashes.
Yeah, that's what I was figuring was going to happen. So I was like, I'll plan on the 4 to 6.
Great. And those boxes are also deliverable as well when you go online. And there's an option that says, I can pick mine up on the 17th, or I'd love for mine to be delivered. So just click that and we'll get that to you.
all right. If you think of any other questions, you are welcome to email and ask. Please don't hesitate to do so. If you talk to your friends and somebody asks a question, you're telling them about what we're thinking, and they ask a question, you're like, I don't know, encourage them to reach out to us. We want to hear these comments. We want to hear these questions. We're not going to do a survey. Community doesn't like surveys, but we want to hear from people. So make sure you take a moment, email us. You can email any pastor or staff here, and we'll get the information. Doesn't mean we'll have an answer, but we'll at least be part of the dialogue that is continuing to unfold as we figure out how we relaunch worship and community beyond pandemic. All right.
Pastor Eric, do you want to pray?
I'm happy to offer a prayer. Yes. The Sunday school classes are staying on or not? Yeah, they are. Okay, yeah. Great. All right. I invite you into a spirit of prayer. Oh, gracious God, this day I give thanks. I rejoice that there are people who are engaged in the conversation, that they care so deeply about their church. They want to know what's happening, and that they are willing to tell others and spread the word that you are still here, that you are still pushing and nudging us, that we are still following your will and your way into the world. As we go into this week, especially this week, oh God, we pray for our friends without homes. It is going to be a hard, cold time. And so we ask you to care for them, to embrace them, and let us know where we need to act in their interests in the world. As we enter the season of Lent, spending a year in pandemic, you are the God of our lives, whether there's a pandemic or not. You are our God, whether there's chaos or not. You are our God at the top of the mountain and at the lowest valley. And for that, we give thanks and rejoice this day. And all God's people say, amen. Amen. All right. Thank you all. Again, if you any other follow-up, please email me. Otherwise, go Chiefs.
Yay. Thanks, Eric.